So this is all about the init container. This is all about the pods, right? Where we saw the multi-container pod, we saw the init container pod, we saw the different examples of the pod and the things. Now comes the big part, that is the deployment.yaml. What does it come? Deployment.yaml. We always run the deployments. Okay, we always run the deployments. Okay, to create the pods. And why is it, why the deployments are good when why not the pod, that we will see from here. To define the deployment to things, we just put the kind as what deployment, and we say that API version is apps v1. With the deployment, the good part is that you have a replica also attached. Okay, you have a replica also attached. Replica means that create the three different copies of this pod. Okay, so in this deployment, when it will spin up the service, it will not create one, it will create three different services. Let me clean up all the existing jobs now. Let me delete all the pods. Okay, everything is clear now. Okay, here. Now also deployment has selectors. Why selectors? Means on which parameter, on which point it will deploy the things, right? It will deploy the stuffs, like where, to which application the replicas will be created. So it has to match the labels. Okay, it has to match the labels. So you see this label here, selector says select the pod or select a template which has the label with the name as hello. Okay, where the name of the application is what? Hello. So this was your specification which you have defined for deployment. When it comes to template, in the template, you define in the metadata that this label is named as hello. Okay, and you define your containers here. You say that okay, I'm going to use this container, okay, which is going to run on this port, and you can define your resources now in your this only. Okay, in this configuration deployment only. Let's try to run this first. Now you see three pods came in. See, I have a deployment here. It says 3 by 3 are ready. It has created three replicas of the same. So now, if let's say what does that mean? It will always ensure that three pods are up and running for this. Example, if I delete this pod, you say it came up again. If I delete this pod, it will come up again, because now your replicas in the deployment is ensuring that the three pods are required at minimum. Okay, three pods are required at minimum. So that is where now you see they are controlled by replica set. And before this, if you will see, this field was empty. They were not controlled by anything. Now they are controlled by my replica set. Okay, so all of these three will keep on running. Now you can check the logs for the deployment. Sorry, pod, it will say that okay, it is listening on this. You can check the logs for the deployment also by this. Okay, you can restart your deployment, but you can't restart your pod, because there is no way. Pod can only be deleted. There is no process to restart the pods. Okay, you can scale up your deployment. Let's say you want to scale the replica from 3 to 5. So again, there is a command also, we will talk about that, but it, you can do this. So now you see it has a 5 pods running. Okay, it has a 5 pods running. You can scale down your replicas. Okay, I can scale down my replica here to back to 3. It will come back to 3. You see, 2 pods are getting terminated now, and it will run the new 3 replicas. This is the beauty of the deployment, because when you create a deployment and things, the pods will automatically get created. With the help of deployment, you can scale up, scale down. Okay, you can control the number of the replicas and the things. This is important because it helps you on the load sharing and everything. this is this is how you write the deployment. This is how you create the deployments and things. Let's talk more on the deployment, but before that, execute this code. Now I have another example. So before that, if my labels will not match, okay, we will get the error invalid spec template metadata labels. Okay, means your labels are not matching. Okay, so like if I create a different label here or I give a different name, it will not even create a deployment. So the selector the template meta dot labels should always match whatever the selector labels are there. Now let's have the same example. It's just that I have done what, I have added the liveness probe checks. I've added the readiness probe checks also. Okay, means yesterday we saw that how did we added this probe check, this health check uh, in my pod YAML. Now instead of doing it at that place, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it here in the deployment itself. I'll delete this deployment and here I will write kubectl fly minus f deployment updated.yaml minus n Sachin. You see, it is creating. Okay, it is creating the pods. The other pods, the previous deployments are getting terminated, but all the three pods are running successfully. I did nothing. I just that added the liveness probe. Liveness probe will do what? It will check if the pod is live or not, right? Readiness probe will do what? It will check if the pod is ready or not. And now another important thing which we need to see is that how can we scale the deployment? To scale the deployment, we can do one way, that kubectl scale deployment. Kubectl scale deployment. My deployment name is what? Hello hyphen deploy. My deployment name is what? Hello hyphen deploy. Okay. And I can write minus n Sachin hyphen ns. Sorry. But we have to write what I have to scale, to what value I have to scale. I have to scale replicas equal to, let's say, 8. So I'll just put this. It will now, you see, scale it to the 8 pods. All the other pods will go down and it will start scaling it to this 8 pods. Okay, so this is how this works. Okay, to scale the pod, to scale the deployment, we will do this. I have to scale back the replicas to 3, so I can do it via the this mechanism, and it will scale back to 3 now. Only 3 pods are running, rest all will be terminated. So this is how you can scale down and scale up, okay, the replicas. Now, the another important part is that this was a way through which you can scale down and scale up manually through the CLI part. But is this the right way? Will this be applied in production? No, never. The way you can scale up, scale down in production is known as HPA.yaml.